A good, if you're looking to avoid really bad multi-platform releases on PC. And I would say it's mainly the ones that have PSO stutter. Those are usually the ones where I would also argue that you can get a technically smoother experience on console, if it's just chock full of PSO stutter. And in which case the Pro would be the better place to play.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another Xvault gaming video. Xvault here, and today we're going to go over your first dose of the salty batch files. Of course, we have some good ones here. Of course, we have sympathizers, victim mentality going on, and above all else, we do have some salt content as well as this is opposed to. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump to it. All right, so like I was saying, what we're going to do is get right to it here. Let's get to the first example right out the gates. Now, we haven't featured Kid Smooth in quite some time because he does like to make some ridiculous posts, but I don't always see them. This one really did catch my eye. Let's give this a show here. Now, he states, wow, saw this image floating around basically on the timeline with the emoji face showing all the teeth. The interesting part to this here is, yes, the PlayStation side that's being shown, not the greatest scores. Forspoken can be whatever, right? And Foamstars was utter garbage, I'll admit that 100%. But what I'm trying to figure out here, and I'm sure you're getting to the conclusion before I do, is it the Sega plus Xbox side of things here? A lot of JRPGs and from Sega and all that, great games. They obviously have great meta scores and such like that. But these are available on the PlayStation ecosystem as well. I don't know where you're trying to pull a W from here. This isn't it. This is not it. If anything, this shows that Xbox has less of offerings available to them, where PlayStation, you get to choose what you want to do. And the score is subjective to each gamer out there. Yes, collectively, most people tend to agree with the scores, at least around about. But ultimately, we all have different tastes. We don't always like the same games. But moral of the story here is, I don't know where you're trying to get a W. Like, these are miraculously exclusive to Xbox and its ecosystem altogether. It's not. This is kind of a really, really far out reach right here. This is insanity. This was shared around by all the Xbox shills and such. And of course, Kid Smooth has to lap this up and grab it and think it's another thing. And like, oh, I saw us floating around. You know what this means, boys? No, it doesn't mean anything. It means absolutely nothing other than it's another L for Xbox side of things when you're comparing you getting less in your ecosystem. But let's continue on. We have a lot to go over here, of course. So the next one, Estelle, this will be a quick one. I just love a good Estelle burn because he takes L's daily. He believes he doesn't, but he really does. Now he goes on here. Black Myth Wukong, Xbox version rated by ESRB suggests, release incoming suggests, right? Now, it was shown just below here. Physical release date reveal. Black Myth Wukong PS5 Physical Edition will be released October 21st. Tomorrow in the US at the time of this recording, stuff like that, right? Shows all that very soon in Europe at 69. And then, of course, we have the great meme. Surprise, this is exactly what it is. They keep thinking it's going to be something big. But he was going back and forth quite a bit, too, that Black Myth Wukong was not a big deal, but then it's a big deal again. Physical release, finally coming to Xbox. They're going to, of course, try to spin that like it would be the best version and all that. We already know how this carousel and circus goes already, but I love a quick burn like that because they get all their eggs in one basket and boom. But let's keep going here. Now, Snap Blast Play. Again, been a minute maybe that he's been featured for a moment, but here we are again with the tried and true formula that he likes to do. Xbox and PlayStation first party is just different. Starfield, Xbox PC Cloud, 10 years, one galaxy, amazing quality, DLC and mods. Amazing quality is certainly subjective because a lot of people are pretty much split on this, and more so split in the side that it's not game of the generation, it's not amazing. 10 years, what are you talking about? Are we talking about longevity, how long it'll be played? That can be said for any game out there, whether it's linear or not. And again, that's subjective. I'm glad it's available on PC and cloud because cloud is just so fun and streaming is just the way to go this day and age at this time of recording. in the future, that could be a different story, but anytime soon, streaming is not the way. I've used cloud. I've even used PlayStation Plus stuff, and it works fairly a bit better than on PlayStation Plus. It does with streaming games. However, that's not the moral of the story here. The moral of the story is streaming. I still don't like it, still don't care for it, is my primary way of gaming. And of course, DLC and mods, like that's a W for... If you want more DLC and mods and stuff to do, then get on PC. And this could be pertaining to PC, but we know he's talking about Xbox. Now, let's get over to the side that he's trying to negate as an L for PlayStation here. He's talking about Spider-Man 2 again, PS5 only. Is that a bad thing? Okay. 10 hours, again, subjective. Is that a bad thing? I don't like my games being 100 hours anymore. I start getting worn out personally, especially at my day and age. I know the kids and the teens may have more time, but as you get older, you have families, you have responsibilities, jobs, this, that, and the other. Trust me, 10 to 20 hours is really a good sweet spot. Very far and few between getting past 50 hours plus. One city, again, this is Spider-Man, no duh, we're not going to be traveling universes as Spider-Man. A buggy mess, which is not true, especially as of now. At the very beginning of launch, some people had some issues. I did not experience any, but one crashed, that was it. And then, of course, a shrugging emoji. Again, let's see what game sold more, but I guess you'd be comparing that to Game Pass as well. I mean, it's just L after L. I mean, all they do is hurt their brand. If somebody was sitting there and they were a fan of Spider-Man, they're like, well, this guy's saying, some casuals coming through, this guy's saying Starfield's better, so let me just invest in maybe this ecosystem that has Starfield. And then they bypass something like Spider-Man that they would maybe be more into or something like that. And then you're going to sit here and see this as an L. When it's the L that's taking for the fan base, they're going to have a bad taste in their mouth. It's going to do more harm than good. This is where fibs, capping, and the like is going to hurt the brand in the long run. And not only that, but your reputation once the casuals find out who you truly are. But let's keep going. That was some nonsense here. Now, we have some victim mentality. We have some hypothesis here, and we got Mr. Boomstick back at it again. This guy probably needs featured more on this channel than it tends to be, but here we go. He's talking about game industry, and I'm going to read what he's talking about first, but let's talk about the industry title here first, the, paragraph, basically. Depending on how the Game Pass situation shakes out, Sony could end up being the company that enjoys the most black ink on its financials from Black Ops 6, which is a bit of a bum note and what should be a triumphal moment for Xbox. Now, I don't see this as necessarily being untrue, because this could. Depending on how Game Pass situation shakes out, we still have to kind of wait. We have to wait for this to kind of play out, even at the time of this recording, right? I'm not 100% sure. I think this is where all the eggs are in the basket. This is part of the big ABK deal, is having that control completely over COD. Yes, it's going to be multi-plat, but just trying to see how that moves Game Pass numbers. Does that additionally help in any way, shape, or form with hardware as well for the Xbox side? We're waiting to see, but this could end up being a better deal. Yes, in the long run, because probably more of these copies are going to just be straight out bought because of the COD casuals, and again, it's fine if you are, but there's a lot of them out there, right? And what do? That's the only game they buy. Same with the Madden users or the FIFA users or whatever the case is, UFC users. They go out and buy the same game yearly. And no different for the COD folks out there. Now, with them buying that, we know those games get sold more on PlayStation. That's all they care about. They don't want to sub. They're already subbing to Netflix and Hulu and YouTube Live TV or Premium and everything else under the sun. Spotify, anything, right? Pandora, whatever you want to put out there. Disney Plus, all that stuff. HBO Max, the list goes on and on and on. But you're just adding everything, and eventually you have to cut it off. Like, why would I be subbing monthly to a game that I just play exclusively? Why would I not get more of a benefit just to own this? And then I can flip to it however, whenever, all that stuff, right? That's just how that works. So I don't see this really changing the game. When it was first announced, if it was going to be more of an exclusive thing, absolutely. But the fact that this is not exclusive because they need that money, I don't see this changing all that much, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. But anyways, back to the boom statement here. The disingenuous takes from the gaming media to stir up clicks, likes, and engagement never ceases to amaze me, as if PlayStation gamers buying Black Ops 6 is somehow a bad thing. The whole reason for ABK investment is IP for Xbox Game Pass and a consistent flow of cash, on and on and on. That's not the tune he was singing at the beginning, by the way, when this whole ABK thing was down, hoping for exclusivity, this, that, and the other. But now it's all about the cash, and he's right. They do get more of a cut for even every sale on PlayStation. I'm not negating that. But it's a bad thing. Game industry is not being wrong here. They're not always on the mark, right? But they're not stating for a fact. Depending on how the Game Pass, if it doesn't move Game Pass and it sells more, again, on PlayStation, this works more in the favor of PlayStation. They're going to buy the hardware for PlayStation 5 if they don't have a 5 or a Pro. Call of Duty could potentially, just like Diablo 4 is going to, COD could potentially end up performing better with the PS5 Pro for some time until, if and when, the next Xbox hardware ends up coming out. And what does that look like? Specs, is it hybrid hand mode? We don't know. All this stuff, right? We don't know. There's too many question marks. So it's a huge deal that people are still going to buy Call of Duty on PlayStation, because when you have the hardware, you're invested in the ecosystem, odds are you might be picking up more software, which is really the game changer as far as financials for that ecosystem. Do we understand how that works? And of course, at the very bottom, I'm sure you all seen, it's getting annoying from Cold Eastwood. What's getting annoying? Your lies? Because you have no room to talk here. Absolutely none. But I love how you chip in on there. The tears are coming down. They're so upset because it's always the media against them, even though the media, such as IGN and such, are more pro Xbox. It's just always a victim mentality. Like I've stated at the beginning of the video, what we would see, it's always that victim mentality. It's always crying. It's always whining. It's always the salt. That's why we're here. But let's continue on here. We spent enough with that one. I could write a book about it. Let's get over to the catfish, Andrea Piccinini, aka Joseph Cruz, still putting on the persona here. This is great here. I love this one. Ha 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 ha, all caps, all that stuff. Bravo, Pearl Abyss. You got my respect for rejecting the desperate anti-consumer attempts from the pork SIHT company. Kiss emoji and 2 OK emojis, right? And talking about Crimson Desert got a Sony offer for a timed exclusive, but Pearl Abyss did refuse. I find that odd that they did refuse. I would think that you would want some more lump sum for a timed exclusivity, and then you can still, release it elsewhere. I find that odd. I don't think Xbox is going to, unless they put you on Game Pass as well, I don't see you getting too much of a bank, as if you will, if you were getting a timed exclusive deal, right? That's my 2 cents. But in addition to that, just an FYI, what they said, this is anti-consumer when companies do that. By the way, don't forget, they talked about Stalker 2 is looking spectacular. Xbox console exclusive 2023, Xbox Game Pass, day 1, green heart emoji.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got them.
Do we see the hypocrite here for what they are, right? The hypocrisy overall, do we see that? I see it. We all see it. Also, you're a catfish on top of that. But yeah, this is just crazy. They just back and forth. And I don't know how these people have followers. They have crazies out there that just love to listen to it, lap it up, anything that makes them feel good about their purchase into an ecosystem. This person's right, man. I mean, anti-consumerism. And I hear that all the time with Sony and PlayStation. Anti-consumerism, exclusives are bad, this and that. But then they turn around, it's good when it's for their ecosystem, though. Sure thing, absolutely. Oh, man, let's see. We got some more here, but let's end with one more because I got a couple videos here, all right? Let's make this a good one here. Now, it has been a minute since we had Darius Fears here. I cannot stand this guy's posts because they're just so awful. The L's just write themselves, and then he turns around and thinks he did nothing wrong. But here we go. Why is there still a select group of people defending the PS5 Pro? I don't know, maybe the video I shown in the very beginning of this video from Digital Foundry states why it's a good deal. It's a no-brainer, but I understand somebody with your peanut-sized brain can't comprehend that. But let's go ahead and keep shilling and spreading that misinformation. The biggest scam in gaming, Image, which you can't put imagine, Image, what would happen if Xbox wasn't a thing? I don't know, the same thing that's happening now. Them basically being third party and life going on with Nintendo and PlayStation and everything else, and Steam and Epic and games everywhere. I don't see them being an issue. Now, if Nintendo and PlayStation were to completely bow out or do what Xbox does, that I would have an issue with, because we're going to see some serious divide here. We're going to see lack of serious quality control and so on and so forth. But to sit there and act like if Xbox wasn't there, like something worse would happen. Nothing would happen. I think it's a bigger impact if we didn't have Nintendo or PlayStation around. That's what I think. Not that I agree with all of Nintendo's, methods and stuff like that, and sue Happy for this and that and the Power World fiasco, right? And PlayStation isn't perfect either. Absolutely not. I'm not saying that either. But I'm saying these two companies really put and helped keep gaming on the map. Not that Xbox didn't do their thing at times, obviously. Xbox 360 being a great generation for them and for everybody as a gamer. I 100% agree with that. But as of this time, over the last decade, they've been dropping the ball and they haven't done a thing in regards to changing the landscape. And you can use Game Pass all you want. But again, because of Game Pass is why they are what they are. And they're losing and moving those exclusives everywhere. That's why things are becoming more multi-plat. We don't need to go over this over and over again, but that's the fact. But let's continue on real quick. And then, of course, he wants us to believe that. But then not too long ago, earlier this year, he stated Xbox is #1 in gaming, but the industry nor community ain't ready to hear that. With the shrugging emoji and fire emoji, stating this on May 23rd of this year. I don't remember when Xbox was #1 in gaming. Maybe for some time, again, during the 360 generation. But ever since the Xbox One generation and up to Xbox Series S and X, that has not been the situation at all. But yes, we're supposed to believe you, right? You're shilling ass, we're supposed to believe when you state crap like that. But yes, absolutely, do go on. Idiot. Absolute idiot. But that being said, let's go on. This video is long enough. I do have another video here I want you to see. This is from good old Destin Legary. And we'll end it with him. But here he is crying about, well, let's just show you here.
Oh, we need the best looking graphics in the world. Okay, explain why Power World was so successful. Power World did not have the best graphics in the world. It has to be cutting edge 4K native. Here comes Helldivers 2, not cutting edge, not 4K native. It's just a really fun game. At the end of the day, what gamers actually want, and we all know this, a fun video game, a good story. Like if you're focusing on the story being a core part of your game experience, it has to be that. And I don't know about you, but during my gameplay session, I either want to feel cool, play as a cool character, be a badass, right? Or I want to be moved in some way. I think, like I said, something is being lost in translation between what gamers say they want and what they actually want. I think gamers are very loud on X, and there's a little bit of confusion. Like guys, you're not going to get native 4K games on consoles for a long time. I'm just going to break it to you now. I don't think you're going to get native 4K on most of your PlayStation 5 Pro games.
All right. So as you can see, now the narrative has changed again. They shift the goalposts. The narrative has changed. It's all about graphics don't matter now, guys. It's always been a touted thing ever since the original Xbox and me being on the playground talking about video games with others that were Xbox fans, and they were talking about, and all they had was Halo back in the OG day for the most part, right? Talking about graphics and being better than the PS2 and all that stuff from day one, from the conception of Xbox as a brand, as a hardware brand, was that it had more specs to it. It had better graphics and stuff like that. It was touted as that for so long, and that kept the method, and that's what they're talking about all the way up to the current gen, right? Xbox Series X, it eats monsters for breakfast. They were touting all this. It's just so powerful. It could just do anything. You're going to be good for multiple years. But, right now they're pulling their consoles out from other countries and stuff already too. But, I digress, right? And yes, you are right, Destin. That's not the bad part, right? You are right in regards to graphics don't make everything. It doesn't make everything, but now you're damage controlling. You just bought a PS5 Pro. Look at my video a few videos back, and we went over the whole thing where he just turned around. I ain't getting it. Again, same thing. It's a bad deal. It's not needed, blah, 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 and then he ends up getting it. And then he tries to use the excuse, or not him, but his followers and simps were sitting there using the excuse, well, he's a journalist, and he needs to use it for research purposes and all this, but he's getting himself a PS5 Pro, but then still wants to down talk it. When we get closer, and we are getting closer to the release of the PS5 Pro, they're going to have some serious meltdowns and it's going to be glorious. But touching back real quick in regards to, yes, graphics don't make everything, but if you have a fantastic game, if the game is fun, and that is what it's about, is the funness of the game. Is that a word? The funness of a game? But it's a thing. You like it. You enjoy it. The gameplay's great. The story's great. All that stuff that you're talking about, Destin, but it doesn't hurt if the follow-up method to this is increased frame rate, is increased resolution, is increased processing and stuff like that. And then it works and comes together and plays and runs better. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want that? Now, when you're putting the graphics and you're putting the resolution and the frame rates above the quality aspect in regards to the game itself, when it comes to how fun it is to play, in regards to what the story is, in regards to how gripping it is, or whatever the case or category that you want to use in this set example, that is what we're looking at. So when you have the best of both worlds, which is something Xbox was promising for many years, and again, I'll keep saying it until I have no breath left, is that we are seeing what Xbox promised. They promised for over a decade that we would have top-tier graphics, we would have top-tier performance in regards to top-tier quality games. And those games have been very far and few between, and the quality hasn't even been there. The weaker PS5 base model as a whole on paper is doing better running most games in quality aspects as opposed to the monsters eating monsters for breakfast Xbox Series X. And we won't even talk about the Series S in the parity clauses there. That's for another time again if we need to get into that again, but we already know how that story played out. That being said, another fraud, another shill, another crybaby, another victim mentality, another everything that Destin's doing, crying alone in his room. That's what he does, and trying to downplay stuff. He thinks most people are idiots. Most of us are not. So hats off to those of us that can really divulge into that and separate reality from fantasy. That being said, we'll wrap up this a little bit longer than normal video. We just had a lot of stuff going over. And like I said, that bridge is going to overflow here soon with the salt that is once that PS5 Pro gets ever closer. So be looking forward to that. That being said, I do want to thank you all for your support, getting ever so closer to that 2,500 subscriber goal. Thank you all so much. I'm very, very happy and elated with that because your support is absolutely out of this world. So thank you, thank you, thank you. That being said, of course, every like and comment, would love to hear from you down below. Obviously, both of those things in addition do help out the algorithm. And of course, if you haven't already, definitely consider subscribing, helping out a small content creator like myself. And of course, at the end of the day, just always remember, don't be a salty batch. And we'll see y'all next time on the next Xvault gaming video. And until then, take care.